So how many of us have mapped our market? How many of us know our market so intimately that when we see it, we know that that is our market we're talking to? Who has done that? Who has mapped their market? Even if you've mapped just a small portion of it, if you've mapped your market, let me see a hand raised. Let me see a YY in the comment section. Yes, okay. We have one yes, all right. How many others of us know our market so well that we are comfortable with it? Let me see a couple more comments. Today I'm asking a lot of questions because I need you to move with me and I need you to move with me there we are. I need us to move together because if we are not able to, then you might not, we might be talking difficult things today. All right. Not too comfortable though, but yes, that is where we need to start. So market mapping is important because many founders and leaders are making decisions in motion. So we're reacting to pressure, we're reacting to trends, we're reacting to urgency, we're reacting to what people around us are doing, and we may or may not be fully aware of who we're talking to, right? Activity has replaced understanding, but market penetration demands understanding. All right. So, market mapping creates the pause that clarity requires. To be absolutely sure about where I'm going and what I'm doing, I need to pause and reflect. And we've been doing a lot of pause this week and in the months ahead because in uncertain environments, clarity is not optional. Clarity is not a good to have. In an uncertain environment, clarity is a must have. And clarity is your responsibility as the leader. So, say you're leading a team of 3 or 4 and you want them to go a very specific direction, but you are not quite sure what you want to do. You are the one who is to be held to account when things are not going the way they should be going. Why? Clarity is a leadership responsibility. All right. So, market mapping is critical because we live in very uncertain environments. We used to live in volatile environments, used to use VUCA. Now we have a lot more uncertainty because many people are worried, when is the next pandemic? When is the next election? When is the next market dip? When does inflation go up? There are so many uncertainties that we have to keep our finger on the pulse to know what's going on. All right. So, what is market mapping? It is a disciplined way of seeing reality clearly before committing time, money, and or people to a cause. It's a disciplined way of seeing reality clearly before committing time, money, or people to a certain path, a certain cause. It helps leaders understand the environment the organization operates in, so decisions are intentional, not reactive. We have to have intentional decisions. Many of us wait for the thing to happen, then we're like, oh my, what are we supposed to be doing? Market mapping allows us, like I said, to keep our finger on the pulse and know so that we decide from a place of knowledge, not a place of, I think this will work. It brings alignment around what problem truly exists. Remember, we exist to solve a problem that recurs and that people are willing and able to pay for. That's why we exist. So we have to be building around or aligned to a problem that truly exists, understand who is affected by that problem, and where value is currently flowing. All right. It is not a customer persona exercise. No, 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 no. It is not just competitor observation. Neither is it a branding activity or a one-time startup task. Because markets shift, behaviors shift, tastes and preferences shift. Leaders must come and revisit the map. All right? So it's not just a customer persona exercise. Because maybe today your customer persona looks like this, but tomorrow they'll want something different. So we must realize that markets organize around problems, not people. One of the most common and probably one of the most costly things or mistakes founders and leaders make is starting with who they want to serve before understanding what problem needs to be solved. So when we say we have many mama mbogas on the street, is it that the the need in is large, or there are many people just putting up those businesses? I'll give an example. In the 3 kilometer stretch from the main Mombasa Road to my house, there are, I think, 6 or 7 chemists. And there are probably 10 or 11 clubs and wines and spirits. All right. There is one chemist who's been around since just about 2017, 2016. She's consistent. If you ask, I'm a Boda guy, take me to a chemist. Boda for international audience is the motorbike taxi guys. If you ask them to take you to a chemist, they'll take you to her. All right. Why? She has been diligent, number one. She has excellent service, and she is always available and kind, no matter who you are and where you're coming from. Chemists have opened and closed. And the other day I went to a different hospital. I went to a hospital in the neighborhood. And I said, oh, but I have a chemist who I can get my medication from. So give me a prescription for this one they didn't have enough of. And the lady asked me, is it so and so? I said yes. And then this lady who is now running the chemist inside the hospital said, I tried to open a chemist. I was very close to her. It did not work. Why didn't it work? Flo has understood market need. For instance, she opens on Christmas Day. And she opens, and she was telling me she opens to sell one thing. Because people overeat, right? So I asked her, why do you leave your house to come and work in the afternoon? She's like, by afternoon, people have eaten so much. They are so full. All they're looking for is relief. And they get the relief from, secnidazole, Actol, and they buy Panadols. They buy the seemingly ridiculously cheap medications, but they buy them in quantities that's good for her. So that ensures that every December over on Christmas Day, she's open. So she'll sit with her family in the morning, but 3 o'clock, she's in the shop. What is the common problem? The problem is people's overeating and their habits. Tuko sherehe. We're at the party, we're enjoying ourselves, so we overdo it, right? But when she opened the chemist, she was not the only one. But what we all were looking for was a chemist who, one, would give us credit, two, remind us when we owe money, three, be able to carry what we need, and four, source what we need. Because you find a lot of people in my hood have parents who are older, so you're looking for certain medications regularly. So what do? I don't have to be home. I call, I place my order, it's delivered to the house. And then she asks me, are you there to pay the rider, or do I load the rider on my bill? So she will pay the rider. So now I've learned to tell her, I'm paying the rider, don't pay them, because we discovered some cheeky riders. That is her understanding the need in the community, the complexity of the community, and then setting up to meet our needs. Because people don't wake up looking for solutions. Mostly, they wake up experiencing attention, not experiencing attention with an A, they're experiencing a form of tension. There's an inefficiency somewhere, there's a frustration somewhere, there's a pressure, there's confusion, unmet expectations, there is lack. So they are looking to solve that issue that's causing them tension. Whereas you may be looking to give them something you think they need. So when we start with the customer first, we unconsciously reshape the problem to fit our preferences. But when we start with the problem, clarity emerges. So leadership begins with the accurate problem definition. So if you haven't clearly defined the problem you're meeting, then you could find that you are in a little bit of a sticky place when you're preparing where you're going. All right? So the problem always starts because the markets organize around problems, challenges, gaps, needs before the people. Because if there is a gap for fresh food, when you bring fresh, you need to figure out now who are the ones that are looking for fresh food. If you lived around a university and you're talking about a high-end expensive restaurant, you're in the wrong place, because the need around the university is for students looking for good, cost-effective food, especially if you're near a public university. All right? Now, when you look at it like that, you begin to realize you cannot just walk into a place and set up shop. You need to do some research. I'll give another example. The lady who sells me pork, one of our mentees with Joe, I used to actually go into town to buy my pork from her. I used to go, and then ironically, she moved into the house I grew up in. So I'd call and I'd be like, I'm in this locality. I need this kind of pork, this kind. Please deliver to me, and then I'll come home with it. But she began having a lot of deliveries to my hood. So one day she's like, yo, nafungwa duka kwenu. I'm opening a shop near you guys. I'm like, really? How come? And the beauty about her pork, that most people hang the whole pig there in the window. Hers comes pre-sorted. So when they get it, they cut it like if it's the arm, if it's the arm, they cut it in rounds. If it's the leg, they cut it like that. They remove your ribs. You can get ribs. You can get pork chops, loin chops. Everything is already pre-packaged in 1 kilo bags. So when you go to buy, it's not a guy trying to measure for you. Oh, and they've taken out all the fat. It is lean pork. You know that fat that sits right under the skin? She found that her clients, the people who like pork, they want more meat. The problem is we're not getting enough pork when we bought it. When you buy a kilo of pork, half of it is fat. So she built a brand around selling lean pork without that layer of fat. How does that help? She grows her own pigs, and the other complaint was people don't like pork that has been eating garbage because it has worms. So she sorted it out. She ensured she makes her own feed for her pigs. She, when she goes to the abattoir, she has people who pick everything else she's not taking. So she's not taking the intestines, she's not taking the feet, she's not taking the head. So there are now people in the abattoir who know when she brings her 50, 100, 120 kilo pigs, this part is available. So now she has a ready market. We don't want fat, so the fat is disposed to somebody else. And what she has found is we buy more. Because when I buy a kilo of pork steak, I'm getting a kilo of steak. I'm not getting 500 grams of steak and 500 grams of mafuta, also called oil. So when we start with the problem that needs to be met, then how we deal with our customers is reshaped and it's different. So we want to keep the issue the community is grappling with, the need that is around us, front and center, so that when we build or when we begin to assess our markets, we are assessing right. If you're with me and so far it is making a modicum of sense, please put an MM in the comment section as we proceed. All right. So we have said that markets shift and we must revisit the map. All right. We have also said that leadership begins with accurate problem definition. Okay. So, what are the core things we need to do? We need to understand a couple of things, and I put out 4 key things I think we need to understand. Number one, clarity comes before strategy. Clarity comes before strategy. You can't position what you do not understand. You can't. So, clarity comes before strategy. Many times, strategy fails not because we lack effort, but because it is built on misdiagnosed problems. If we say that in this locality, what people actually lack is varieties of meat, that isn't 100% true, because we have chicken dealers, we've got beef butcheries, we have guys who sell goat, we have now 2 places who sell pork. But the two pork people are meeting the common need, but by diametrically different patterns. One of them hangs the whole hog there, and the other one gets you your meat. It's already pre-cut, pre-packed. You're just picking a pack and going. All right. So market mapping slows us down long enough to ask better questions before committing to answers. Keyword, ask better questions. Our questions cannot just be how much can I sell? Our questions must start from what is the actual need before we go to who is the need focused on. All right. So clarity comes before strategy. Number two, markets are systems, not segments. The market is not just your customer. That is one part of the market. The market is a living system. It includes those experiencing the problem. It includes those influencing the decisions. It includes alternatives. It includes constraints shaping behavior. So when you ignore one part of the system, then your decisions are distorted. I'll give an example. Let's say we come and we decide that the reason these guys like pork is because um it's because why? There is no beef in the locality. But that is not true because we've got multiple butcheries. All right. If we came and said that there are 7 chemists because these people are very sickly, and these are just computing chemists and each of them is profitable, that may or may not be true. All right. Assuming that the only thing people in this locality have is X, then you will eliminate what is influencing the decisions. So let's go back to the pork conversation. Could it then be that the reason we are buying pork is because we are looking for alternatives? What is influencing our choice is taste. We are tired of this raggedy beef we eat all the time. Could it be that the influence for us looking for pork is because beef is expensive? Maybe we're thinking pork will work out to be cheaper. All right. Or is there need for anything else? And you see, in the locality, there's a lady I know who does amazing. She has a shop, she does amazing fish. But 50 meters from her shop by the roadside is a guy with a trolley who does fish. 2 kilometers down the road by the main road is somebody else who does fish. And different people stop there. So we cannot assume that they're buying pork just because there's no other option. There's a chicken stockist, there's a farmer's choice stockist, there are multiple butcheries, there are multiple pork shops, there are multiple fish vendors. All right. So what are the other existing alternatives? That's what I've listed. Because it's not that there's only pork in the locality. We have multiple kinds of meat and we have multiple vendors for fresh produce, which makes life very easy. So what is influencing the decisions? You must identify it. You must see what are the existing alternatives. And then you must understand what constraints are shaping behavior. What of these elements above are making people behave certain ways? So markets are systems, not segments. I'll give another example. You could be selling toys, so you're targeting parents, right? Who are the users of the toys? The children. So you need to get the child interested in that particular toy, interested enough to go and influence their parents to buy the toy. So what you find, the system, part of the system there is your consumer doesn't make income, but your customer is not the user. Make sense? The child is the user, but the person who buys that thing is the parent. So you have to capture both audiences. If you come in and just talk to parents, and they think it's cool, it is possible the child may not like that thing. I don't know if that makes sense to you. If you have a growing child, I'll give myself as an example. There was a point at which I could shop for my son. Now I can't. And it's not that my taste has become so bad. It's just that he's at the age where he's like, Mom, I kind of don't like that kind of stuff. Unless I want to be a difficult parent and be disappointed and keep buying him things, I carry him along for shopping. Better still, I send him out shopping with his father because the boys can go and shop together, laugh around the things they like, and leave me sitting pretty in the house. And they come back with things they both like and they will both wear. What is influencing their decisions? They have diametrically different tastes because of their ages. But they also have elements where their tastes are similar because some things, swag is just swag. All right. So when you look at market as a system, it means that daddy has to have worked and had money, and son needs to be ready to replenish clothes. And then they can find a common day and they can go and shop and pray that they find what they're looking for. So ignoring any part of the system leads us to distorted decisions. Because I could sit there and say, oh, but I'm his mother. I should know. I should. Whether I actually do, another question altogether. All right. Number three, demand exists before products. The market does not need persuasion, it needs understanding. It needs to know that you understand what the market, what they want, and you're able to deliver. You see, strong businesses respond to existing demands. Other businesses attempt to manufacture urgency. And maybe that's why your product is struggling. You're trying to make people see how much they need you. If you come to my age bracket and you sell for us a last expense insurance cover, it's very likely we'll buy it because we're taking care of our parents. All right. But if you go to my 18-year-old to sell him last expense cover, you interested. So you design a product and you want to be cool to convince um that age bracket to get it. Maybe, maybe not. All right. So market mapping surfaces what already exists beneath the noise. It digs deep enough to uncover what people actually need, and then we work to provide that thing. Which brings us to number four. Leaders must to decide, not to impress. Some of us do market research so that we can look like we are relevant. No, 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 no. Stop that. Because mapping is discernment, it's not documentation. It does not change what you focus on, what you stop, what you test, or what you refine, then clarity has not been achieved. Every time you go to the market, you must find something that will give you something to focus on. Or you could find a stop, like, this product is selling, this product is not. And some of us who run retail businesses, market mapping starts with if you have a POS system using your data, you begin to see the patterns. So you must dig into the data. What sells on Mondays? What sells on Tuesdays? What sells on Wednesday? What product stays 3 months on the shelf? Then it tells you the market doesn't need that. All right? Because you're responding to the cues you're getting from the market. It also means that every so often you need a team member who will just ask random customers seemingly random questions that will help you identify what they need. For instance, there were products that the chemist I told you about used to stock. She no longer stocks because they do not move. They're products that move in government hospitals. So if I want, like, I very often like to take ferrous sulfate and folic as one tablet. I now know there's one chemist in the CBD where I can get what I want at an affordable price. I don't want the big money brands because I just like the simpler stuff. All right. So, but Chesubire in that case is 1 in 100. So you will not stock that drug for perchance, peradventure, Chesubire will buy it. So if my chemist is in a different income area where certain the limitations on their income, again, I'll need to look at it. I'll give an example. There are very many kinds of paracetamol on sale. There is Citamol, which is 2 shillings a tablet. There's Panadol Advance, Panadol Extra, there's Maramoja, there's Sonamoja. there are very many, there are at least 6 to 8 of different brand names. At the bottom of everything, it is the same paracetamol, but Maramoja has caffeine in it. And I remember hearing about Maramoja from a matatu driver. The guy sitting next to him was high. He was coming off. He had been drinking the night before. He needed to go to work. It was in the morning. I was in the front seat. And the driver asked him, where? Ulikuja jana? You did yesterday. Eh, kiasi gani? Mingi. How much? A lot. Na uko na headache. The driver reached into his pocket and told him, meza hii. He gave him mara moja. And then he said to him, hii ndio nimepata inatoa lock. This is what I have found helps me overcome the hangover. So I actually went and I bought Maramoja against all these other brands, and I found it has caffeine. Now, for me, who doesn't like too much caffeine, and that's not a thing I'm going to take, all right? But at the same time, there are other painkillers like ibuprofen, which the older versions cause a lot of heartburn, right? So when they noticed their product was not going, they came to research, and it's not the product is bad, it causes heartburn. So over time, they've gone back, they've added a sugar coating that allows you to go further down into the intestines. What are they doing? They're answering the problem in the market. Because the reason their sales were low is not because their product was necessarily bad. It just caused heartburn. So it gave them what to focus on, resolving the acidity of their medication, what to stop retailing things without a coating. And so they went, they did a coaching, and what do? They come and test the product. And the product is accepted better. It begins to sell more. So they now keep that as their signature standard. However, do you know that there is a gel capsule for ibuprofen that goes even further down the intestines? So you have no reaction. But because it is a gel capsule, it dissolves faster and it is in your bloodstream faster. Again, somebody went back to the market and found the issue of heartburn, acidity, and they formulated a way to get it into your system faster. If you do not shift something by your market mapping, you haven't attained clarity. It doesn't matter how strong your brand is, there is always room to map. Okay. We're together. Let me see a YY in the comment section. If we're together, let me see a Y. Excellent. If you have a question, just also pop it there. We will come back. Gel capsule. It is actually green. I think I have them somewhere. But maybe not close enough to showcase today. All right, excellent. I can see we're together. So let's share what I call the market mapping framework. It is just it's about six. It's 6 steps. It's 6 steps, and then we'll be done. Okay? So this is the problem first approach. Remember, we said we map for existing problems, not for people, because markets are systems that align to the problem. Okay, so step one, identify core problem. This is where you start. You start by asking what problem keeps showing up. Or, so is market mapping finding out from where the market, from the market, what the problem is. It's identifying the existing problem. Yes, that's the first line. Once you've identified the problem, we'll go through the steps, you'll see how we go. So what we're doing in this first step is looking and identifying what keeps showing up. If I'm a design lecturer, what is the flaw I see in the designer? If I'm a business coach and a mentor, what challenges are we seeing all the businesses having? So we went from we had a lot of startup funding a few years ago, And now it has gone down because of the entrance of AI. We have a lot of people who will go to an AI tool, a GPT tool, input what they want to do, input the market data, and say, create a plan for me. And the GPT creates a plan. They do not adjust the plan for changes in inflation and other things that actually happen every day in life. All right. So, what happens? They bring this plan, they present an investor, you get money, but you don't have the resilience to keep the project going. My family, my friends, my people. A business does not stand overnight. There will be days when you have no rent and you've got to figure it out. There will be days when you are client heavy and but there's so much cash that is out, so you are cash poor at that point. You could be owed millions, but in your bank account you've got 20 shillings, 500 shillings, 15K, and your overheads are higher. That is why a lot of startup funding has shifted to you have already sold, you have proof of concept, you are post revenue, even if you have made 1 shilling, because now they see that the market has course corrected. Why? They would come and get the money and go and sit down. That's challenging. You're like, business is hard. You close it and you go home. The other thing they now look for is a co-founder. There are programs Joe and I have applied for, and the question for co-founder is key. And they say it's an advantage to have a co-founder. Why? The market has proven that when you're a solopreneur, if you're not able to balance things right, you burn out. So, how do we mitigate? Other ways of mitigating is a formulation of consortiums, where Chesubire enters as a specialist in X, Onika as a specialist in Y, Jennifer in Z. We come together and we are strong. So, everybody works in their place of strength. But the course correction in the investment sector to look for people who have existing programs and products that are selling. So your post revenue, you have a co-founder. If you have a board, added advantage. Why? The market proved people without boards are more likely, 70, I think 73% more likely to fail. Something like that. So you go into the market and you understand what's the core need, what need keeps showing up, what remains unresolved. And what will happen if this problem is ignored? So this step demands a lot of honesty. Vague problems lead to vague solutions, which lead to probably vague implementations, and then at a point everything implodes. All right. So that's step number 1. Identify the core problem. Step number 2, identify who experiences this problem most clearly or most visibly. So to the question of, is it finding out what the problem in the market is? Yes, as the first step. Then once you've identified it, then you find out who is experiencing this problem. And what we ask is, who feels the pain most acutely? You know, there's chronic pain and then there's acute pain. Chronic pain, you just get used to it because it's always there. Acute pain is so strong, you end up being unable to focus on anything but that acute pain. All right? So we're asking who feels it most acutely, who has urgency to resolve that issue, not curiosity. There's some people who, yes, they don't have water, but it doesn't bother them. There are others who have no water in the neighborhood and it really, really bothers them. I know somebody who moved into a neighborhood, got onto a couple of water lines, the water was inconsistent. They were so mad about the absence of water, they sank a borehole. And the borehole has been consistent for 3 years in a locality where boreholes are inconsistent in 18 months. All right? They felt the pain most acutely. So they provided the solution, and all their neighbors have benefited because all their neighbors were struggling with the same thing. Inconsistent water supply. That was a problem. But the other side of inconsistent water supply was a propensity to disease, the closeness we are to disease, because we don't have clean water for critical things. And then look at who is already solving it. So let's look at this water story I've just told. At the point that they sank their borehole, there were 5 other water suppliers in the locality. They onboarded on 2 of the 5, and service was just horrendous. Horrendous because half the time there was no water. Horrendous because bad staff management. All right. But you already look at who is there, because this prevents the thought process or the thought that they're inflated and bigger markets than you think. And many of us, we talk about the total addressable market, what we can actually address, and we inflate it because we think the need is so much. So market mapping demands that you go not just to the market, but to the grassroots of the market. All right. Number 3, examine current ways the problem is being handled. All right. What workarounds exist? So, like for our water guy, what was the option that he had? He could buy water, very viable option. But how much is a 10,000-liter tanker? How many liters do you need every month? How easy is it to get that? So there exists resolution to the lack of water. But then the question that arose was, is the water always clean? We live in a salty area. So is the water salty or fresh? So you would find tankers written fresh water. And you wonder, why are they writing fresh water? Because the natural water in our locality is salty because we have a limestone bedrock. So water that goes through has a weird taste. By the way, in the early days, oh my goodness, you'd make black tea and you taste lime more than the black tea. So what workarounds exist? What compromises are people accepting? And are they accepting this because they want to or because there's no other option? And then what alternatives are being used? This is where you figure out who your competition is and what they're doing. Remember, we said market is a system. So, person influencing your customer to buy is a competitor. So, what are they doing? In our ecosystem, there are very many people who work with SMEs. So, we've had to deliberately differentiate. That's what we've had to do. We've had to differentiate. So this of examining ways the problem is being handled is actually competitor analysis. And it's high level. It cannot be high level. So if we're tracking together, you will see that market mapping is not a one-day thing and a one-off thing. It's not. You need to know in December, around December, how does your market behave? In January, how do they behave? In January, many of us are focusing on paying school fees and recovering from emptying our wallets and destroying our bank accounts in December. So what are people doing in January? They are buying essentials. So what are the cycles in your industry? They are, like, let me talk about the event industry. There are cycles. December, super busy. August, April, super busy. Valentine's, big ticket item. So what do they try and do? They try to ensure that around May 1st, Labor Day, around Madaraka Day, June 1st, up October with Mashujaa Day and Mazingira Day, they try to make create what are they called, deals and packages that draw people into those things. Why? They've mapped the market. They know when people want to go. You have mapped how many are likely to be like extremely long weekends. And if you're in the travel industry, then you know what to pitch those weekends. Why? It is called Kujipa mwili pole. People want to say sorry to their bodies. They want to reward themselves for the hard work. So you identify what are the patterns in your market and who is meeting those needs and how they're meeting those needs. And then you begin to think about what you do. The next one, number 4, is you identify the decision makers, the influencers, and the users. Remember the story of the children's stories. Who authorizes the payment? Who authorizes selection? Who authorizes acceptance? You need to know that person. In some areas, it could be that you're selling real estate. So you're going to the man assuming he has the money. He could have the money, but who moves? Who decides they're moving or not? The spouse, the wife. So it would bode you well. It would be important for you to understand that the decision maker is the wife. Choosing a mechanic, who is like, in fact, please put this in the comment section. It's more likely to know which mechanic to go to. Somebody tell me, who is more likely to know which mechanic to go to? Male or female? Let me make it easier for you. Exactly. But the men are actually no. So, because I found for many of us, and I had to deliberately learn how to change a tire by fire, by force, by choice. But that was by and large because of my brother. She's like, how can you get stuck on the side of the road and not know what to do? Nowadays, I get stuck, I look for a man. I'm like, I've reached that age. I can do baby girl vibes. Eh? I look for a guy. Many of us, and I don't know whether it is different in other countries, many of us as Kenyan women don't go to the garage. Let's ask women, why are you going to the garage all the time? Find a brother. If you do have a brother, then that's okay. But I found I do know what happens under the hood, but I don't have to go every day. Because what am I giving up to sit there the whole day as my car is fixed? Do I need to be somewhere with my child? Do I need to be sorting the house? So you have to understand who authorizes the action, who puts the money on the table, who shapes perception and trust, and who slows down or accelerates decisions. Because if we do not know where the gaps or the bottlenecks are, we are unable to deliver full service, full value. So if you work with a very specific organization, it will be important to know who signs the checks. How often are they signed? What is their payment structure? There are companies who pay on Thursday, they authorize on Thursday and Friday. So it doesn't matter whether you have an emergency and you go to them on Monday, authorization, unless a critical need will be done on Thursday. So perchance they authorize on Thursday. When do you think you'll get your money? Those are the things you must think about. All right. So you think about number 4, who are the decision makers and the influencers. Back to our toy example. The people who influence parents to buy toys is the children. So how do you capture the children's attention so that the parent can buy? Number 5, what are barriers and constraints? And in this one, you're looking at financial limits, you're looking at access issues, you're looking at trust gaps, timing, regulation. Are you in a regulated sector? For instance, real estate is regulated, law is regulated, architecture is regulated, engineering is regulated, construction is regulated. Recently, we had a building fall. Number 5, surface or uncovered barriers and constraints. Recently in Nairobi, we had an apartment block under construction fall. It was supposed to be 14 floors, but they got approvals for 16 floors. And when they got to floor number 16, the building all of it came down, right? When you look at that, that's a regulatory issue gone bad. Somebody should have ensured that building did not go that far. So there is a contractor there who knows who to talk to. You see, constraints will explain stagnation better than lack of demand. Sometimes your sales have stagnated not because people don't want them, but because they could be unable to afford it because of the season. Remember how things were during COVID, where certain sectors just collapsed because people were holding funds to be able to take care of critical things going on in their lives. Nothing but a right? It could be that because of a certain regulatory issue, people cannot access your product. It could be that the last time people used a product like this, it hurt them. Then you launch it. And they're like, hey, we remember. We remember the pain that particular type of toothpaste caused us. Sometimes the thing that plagues lack of demand isn't what we think it is. It could be your capacity to deliver. Think about a makeup artist who can only be in one place at a time, but they have three bookings on the same day at the same time. The reason they cannot expand and grow the business is capacity. They're alone. They're alone. So capacity isn't always ability to produce, it is ability to deliver. If you call me to speak the same day in multiple places, Chesumira is one. So I'll have to choose one. I remember somebody asked me to help her with with an event because one of the other things I do is event planning. And I just had to tell her this week I cannot take on another event. I already have two on top of my daily scheduling. So my life is at a high speed capacity. So then the barrier to my growth is not lack of demand. It's a capacity issue. I could have books for sale, and I do have multiple titles under my name for sale. But if I cannot get them to the customer in the right format that they want, I won't sell. That's a capacity issue. So my book sales are low, maybe because I don't have enough time to spend marketing. I don't have enough books to get to the bookshops or to the places I need to deploy them. So how do I sort the capacity issue? Because if more people want what I have and want the books I have, can I find a place in the CBD that can stock my books and dispatch them? So then what is the option? Rent a shelf. That's the option. And we have a lot of rent a shelf places in Nairobi now. So when you look at it like that, you understand that it could be bigger issues. And number six, identify the opportunity and positioning gaps. All these things have told you what exists, who is involved, how it should work, where the constraints. So now you finally ask, where is the problem poorly addressed? Where are the people underserved? Where is clarity? Where is there clarity but no confidence? Sorry. Where does clarity exist but there's no confidence? And that becomes where you can have a strategic advantage. That shows you your strategic advantage. You see, even when we set up AMC, some of the things we set out to do, we don't do. We don't. We tried them. They were good to have, but in the market at the point, they were not working. Which is why you keep going back to your market. Every year, the market shifts a little bit. Every year, it shifts a little bit. But are we aware the market is shifting? That is why we have Felicity here, so that when you give us feedback, we're able to look at it. When we're running projects and interventions, she's able to come and help us help our project have a proper M&E structure. Your monitoring and evaluation is part of your market mapping, because if you're serving people and they say, we did not enjoy that product, and you say, shauri yenu, that's your problem. We know of some people in our industry who got that kind of feedback from their client, and the feedback from the project was, this, your model is not working, can you add this? And they said, no, this is how we work. They lost the contract. They lost the contract. You see, market mapping allows you to keep your finger on the pulse and know that when my people are shifting, I need to shift. Or the shift could be, I look for a different demographic. So I could shift into what they want me to shift, or I could stay where I am and lose, or I could reorganize a different demographic. That is market mapping. You look at all the different sides of it, the demand side, the supply side, the challenge side. You look at your competitor side, you look at yourself, and you see where you can fit in and answer that particular question. So I will give you 4 questions that you can ask yourself that will help you in this space. What problem am I actually trying to solve? Actually, you see, many of us say we're solving one thing, but we're doing the other. As AMC, we are solving unemployment. We're also working on underemployment. So that's the first question. What problem am I actually trying to solve? The second thing I want you to think about, and I'll give you all the questions and then we can give us a few minutes to write them down. What might I be confusing? Where might I be confusing symptoms for the real issue? And then who experiences this problem very deeply? Who does? And what decision must I revisit in the light of this clarity? You see, your role as a leader is to ensure that everybody around you is clear about what they're doing. That's your role. Your role is so much less about um, being the only one selling. You must be the number one salesperson, but you must also be the number one team builder. What do I mean by that? You need to be selling like your life depends on it, but building a team like your life depends on it. Because then, as your team learns to sell, you're able to remain strategic and you're able to grow. Right? So when you ask yourselves these questions, the thing that we are trying to establish, even at AMC, is what problem do I really solve? Where am I confusing symptoms for the real thing? And really, what decision must I revisit in the light of everything I find out? Some of you may market map and realize that you are perfectly situated. So remain. But also be looking for emerging trends, how your target market is beginning to shift, because your target market is shifting. The only thing that doesn't change in life is the fact that everything changes, right? So markets are systems. They're not segments. They're not isolated boxes. They're interconnected, intertwined. You can find that inflation will affect people's discretionary income, which means that they will not buy certain things. That's just it. So is the thing that you're selling a luxury such that when it's not there, it's not there? During the pandemic, I remember people saying, kumbe, we're not essential services. They thought they were so critical, but then they were told, stand down, stay at home. That's what they were told. And I remember one guy saying, I'm not essential services. And he really tried to get the essential services tag. He was asked, do you manufacture food? No. Are you in the sanitary and sanitation side of manufacturing? No. Do you do food? Are you a farmer? No. Are you in health? No. Stand down, go home. He didn't understand why he couldn't move. Because as a symptom of the quality of his life, he thought he was hyper important to the economy. Shock on him, he wasn't. All right. So, does anybody have a question, something you want clarity on before we wind down? Does anyone have a question or a reflection? All right. Have I overwhelmed you today? I'm sorry. When you're very quiet, how do you work out the problem you are solving? How do you work out the problem you are solving? What things you must understand is, sorry, I needed to move something. You start by asking what keeps breaking down, all right? Because problems reveal themselves through patterns. And then the thing that keeps breaking down that you consistently are able to respond to, that's the problem you're solving. You see, you're looking for a real problem that shows up consistently and is a pain to the people who experience it. So it's consistent. And then you're looking for um why is this thing happening? So let me give an example. Sales are low. That's a symptom. All right. Customers don't trust us. Their sales are low because customers don't know, like, and trust us. That could be potentially a root, but it could be even just the bottom of the stem. And then why don't they like and trust us? Customers don't understand what we value or what we sell, or they don't understand the value we give to them. Now, that is the real problem. Okay. Real life problem. People are saying there's no food in the locality. Is it that there's no food or there's no food in the ilk that they like it? I'll give an example. I live in a locality where it is considered leafy suburbs. All right. Which means there are certain things you don't find. So during the day, who do you find in the locality? It is keepers, housekeepers, garden keepers. You find the vendors on the street. You find motorcycle guys. So when our local what? When our local telco was talking about internet and Wi-Fi, they would stand around on the streets and they think they're solving our problem for internet, but they're talking to people who don't live in the locality. I remember going outside our gate and finding a bunch of them standing there distributing flyers. And I asked them, who's your team leader? And I said to her, people in this locality, the ones who make decisions, they live in the morning. They're gone by 6:30 and they come back from 6:30. So if you want to make sales in this particular thing, you need to adjust to the market and you need to understand their problem. And they were pushing a product that even if we lack internet, that product is just terrible, terrible. A lot of downtime. So what we were looking for as a community is consistent internet because we either work from home or want to keep our children entertained or we've got international contacts. So the issue is the lack of a supplier to give us the connectedness we want. That's the symptom. The real issue is we want to be online and we can't. All right. So what did they begin doing? They began coming early in the day and later in the evening, and they got more sales. Because if you come to our court in the afternoon, other than like we're two or three of us who work at home, of the five, the eight families in the court, the rest are out, right? So when they figured out what problem they were solving, which is the connectivity problem, who is the decision maker, and when would the decision maker be available, did their sales increase. So that's what you look, that's how you look at it. You look at to distinguish the symptoms from the actual problem. You identify who feels it the most, like we said before, and who pays for the service, because your customer has to be willing and able to pay. All right. And then you just keep looking at what people are already doing. So this is just what we discussed further up. Building and scaling, ask yourself a few questions. Do people actually agree this is a problem? Because sometimes we build things that are really cool. Like I remember I was talking to some young people, and they had designed some fantastic solution. It was a cooled truck, a refrigerated truck for the tea industry. And then the farms didn't bother, because the farms are right next to the factories. So where are we transporting this tea from? So when it seemed a novel solution to them, the market said we don't need it. The same way when they introduced the mechanical harvesters, and there was an uproar because the people are like, it's taking our jobs. For the farmer, the issue was high overheads due to plenty of human labor. So to the farmer, anything to lower cost and increase margins. So mechanization was important to them. To the worker who has no other skill, this is a big thing. And who owns the farms are big. The workers are many, but the farm owners are the ones who are looking for sustainability. So when you test a problem, you're asking whether do they agree it's a problem? Number two, do they talk about it without being prompted? And are they already spending money and time to fix it? So back to our tea story, yes, the farmers were spending money and time to to lower their costs and increase their margins. So if the answer is yes, keep moving. If not, just keep observing. All right? So we don't invent the problems that we want to solve. We recognize the problems that are already shaping behavior. So the clearer the problem, the simpler the strategy. All right. I see you have given us food for thought. For me, I realized that who I thought was my client is actually the influencer. That is perfect insight, because now you're ready to build. Reflection, not listening and scaling up from customer feedback, negative and positive, is a sure proof way to fail. Don't get lost in the wonderment and personal love of the service I am providing. That's Listen and adapt is the key to success. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So as we wind down, I'm about to hand it over. Oh, we've gone over time a bit. The thing I want us to understand is we exist to solve problems. We exist to solve problems. And we must ensure that the problems we are working to solve are actually the real problems that exist. And we're also working to ensure that at the end of the day, the problems we solve, people are willing and able to pay for them. Because again, let's not deny that we're in this thing to generate income, to make a difference, and to feed the world. All right? So let us not focus on symptoms. Let us ensure that the thing that we are putting forth is actually a solution. All right? And how do we do that? We go through those steps. We identify the problem. We identify who's going through the problem. We look at how it is currently being handled, who are the decision makers and influencers, what are the barriers and constraints, what are the opportunities and gaps, and then we proceed from there. Why is that important? It is important because that will be the guiding light to where we are going. So then we talked about the mapping framework. So we identify the problem, who experiences it, how are they currently resolving it, um, who are the decision makers and influencers, barriers and constraints, and then we see the gaps. And this is important because you may not need more ideas. You may need more sight because clarity changes everything. Thank you so much. And I hand this over to Mr. Muku.